Holy Gospel according to Mark. Jesus took Peter, James, and John and led them up a high mountain by themselves. And he was transfigured before them. And his clothes became dazzling white, such as no fuller on earth could bleach them. Then Elijah appeared to them, along with Moses, and they were conversing with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus in reply, "Rabbi, it is good that we are here. Let us make 3 tents, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." He hardly knew what to say. He was terrified. Then a cloud came, casting a shadow over them. "This is my beloved Son. Listen to him." Suddenly looking around, they no longer saw anyone, but Jesus alone. As they were coming down from the mountain, he charged them not to relate what they had seen to anyone, except when the Son of Man had risen from the dead. So they kept the matter to themselves, questioning what to rise from the dead meant. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
When I was a senior in college, I was given a great honor. Our friar priest, who was the campus minister, asked me if I was willing to lead our senior retreat. It was supposed to be in November, and it was a time for the senior class to come together, look at the past, at what happened over the previous years, and prepare for the next stage of our life. At that point, I had already decided to become a friar. Not everyone was as sure what they wanted to do. The retreat came, and it was fantastic. The talks went perfect. The team, we worked well together. Everything couldn't have gone better, except for one thing. The retreat had to end, and it ended on Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon, I returned to my dorm room, and I had to study. And I really had to study because on Monday morning, I had my comprehensive exams. For those of you who don't know what a comprehensive exam is, it's the final exam of all of your final exams. If you don't pass it, you don't graduate. So all of those months before, every chance when I had to study, I planned the retreat. So we were all a little bit nervous, myself, Father Bob, about how I would do. But I had to leave the retreat. And I had to leave the retreat to go and do something I didn't want to do. In the gospel we just heard, Jesus took his 3 best friends, his 3 #1 disciples, and took them up a great mountain. And there, they saw Jesus for who he really was. He wasn't just a teacher. He wasn't just the man who walked around preaching who had dirty feet. But rather, they saw Jesus for who he was. They saw him in his glory. They saw that everything that happened for the Jewish people for centuries and centuries, Moses and Elijah, everything was preparing them for Jesus. Pretty amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's almost like you're on a retreat you don't want to leave. So much so that Peter goes and says, "Lord, let's stay here. I'll build a house for you, one for Moses and Elijah, and everything will be perfect. We'll stay here, we'll have a nice community, everything will go great." And Jesus said, no, that's not the way it's supposed to be. That's not the way it's supposed to be. We can't stay on the mountain forever. We can't stay at encounter. We can't stay on confirmation retreat. We can't stay at Sunday Mass here. We can't stay at religious ed. We have to go and do something afterwards. And then it's almost like they slip in and don't tell anyone what you saw until I'm raised from the dead. Someone isn't raised from the dead unless they're dead, unless they're killed. So I wonder what the apostles were thinking about at this point. Who'd ever want to hurt Jesus? Who'd want to hurt Jesus? What's going to happen with this? What does it mean to follow Jesus in his glory, but he's dead? I can almost imagine Peter, who never gets it right in the gospel, really scratching his head on this one. What are we supposed to do? How does this work? How are we to become a disciple in a way we don't understand? And I think we have a great way to understand that in the first reading. From Genesis, the story of Abraham and Isaac. Abraham was an old man. Him and his wife couldn't have children. They really couldn't. So eventually, God says, I'm going to give you a son. And that's the boy we hear about today, Isaac. So Abraham and Isaac go off, and the Lord asks, are you attached to anything more than me? Abraham says, no. I even love you more than my son. Sometimes we can think that's a scary idea. But I think one of the great ways we understand that story is it said God tested Abraham. Has anyone ever taken a test in school? Raise your hand. Has anyone ever taken a test where the teacher said, I'm going to give you a test, but it doesn't count? So do you study more for a test that's going to be graded or a test that doesn't count? Which one? The one that's graded. Nothing good would have happened if Abraham knew the answer. But he had such faith in God, he had such faith that the gift God gave him in his son, that everything was going to work out. I'm convinced in my heart of hearts that Abraham knew Isaac would not die, that God would not ask that. I'm convinced. I'd be willing to put $1 million on it if I had it. But that's the trust of Abraham. That shows the kind of disciple that Abraham is. Nothing held him back. That's a scary thought for us today in 2009, isn't it? What's holding us back? Friends at school? Is it maybe family problems? Who knows? But even in those difficulties, God wants us. Jesus calls us, expects us, hopes for us to be his disciple and to have trust and faith that it's going to work out. We go up to the mountains. We're grateful when we're there, but we can't stay. We come down, and when we come down, when we go back to reality, we have our good memories. We have our experiences. We have our relationship where we know God is with us. And it's those times that get us through maybe some of those crosses and difficulties. Maybe that can be our prayer as we continue through Lent. As we draw closer to Easter, may Jesus and Abraham's example of what it means to be a disciple inspire us, or even, if necessary, give us a kick in the butt to help us love God and love our brothers and sisters as much as they deserve.